Well, welcome, Chris Rush, to the Business School HQ interview series.
Hello, thank you.
Great. And I'm pleased to have you here today to share your experience in teaching business English online. So let me tell our viewers a little bit about who you are. Chris is an American, and he's been teaching business English since 2012. And he claims he's a professional student and was a bartender. So those are great. That's a great combination. And he got his TEFL certificate in, of all places, on a surf trip in Costa Rica. And
That's right.
he stumbled into teaching English online by accident, and he found out it was something that he loved and was passionate about. So, Chris, let's start by telling us a little bit how you got started in online teaching.
Absolutely. Well, when I first got my TEFL certification, at the time, I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. I know that a lot of people get that certification to travel, but at the time, I wasn't in a position to travel. So I had the thought that said, I wonder if it's possible to do this online. So I did an internet search and I found out that it is and that a lot of people are. So in 2012, I started doing it online. And in the beginning, I was working as a freelancer, so working for other companies. And then it was around 2015, in the middle of the year, that I decided to do it for myself and started getting my own students, making my own website, and having my own brand.
Now, that's the entrepreneurial spirit.
That's right.
So, tell me, Chris, who would you identify as your ideal learners?
So my ideal learners are going to be more focused on business English, and my ideal learners are already conversational in English, but they need to improve to get a better job or improve their life in some other way. So the people that I speak to the most are business professionals in a variety of industries who just need to take their English to the next level.
Okay, and that leads me on to what do these learners, these business professionals, what do they want to improve the most?
So the thing that I find my learners want to improve most, as far as the skill that they need to improve most, is speaking and communicating. But the deeper question is what context that comes in. So a lot of my learners are in situations like they need to be able to participate and understand meetings with international colleagues. So, and those of course take place in kind of a business context. So some of them have to make presentations and they have to learn how to do that. They want to be able to do job interviews in English, so they need those kinds of skills. So although most of it is speaking focused, it comes in these particular contexts: meetings, presentations, interviews, things that they are experiencing while they're at work.
Okay, and that brings up the topic of pronunciation. Is that an issue at all with these upper level learners?
It is. I would say it's less of an issue. I would say the bigger issue is understanding people with different accents. So the focus is less on accent training, less on, of course, you want to make sure that there is a baseline of understandable pronunciation. That's definitely important. But the focus is more on effective communication, less on the technical details of pronunciation.
That makes sense. In my own students, my own classroom students, I tell them that that's not going to interfere with the communication. A
Right.
grammar mistake, a verb mistake, even a word that's mispronounced, it's essential communication. So tell me a couple of, you didn't say much about writing, but tell me a couple of one or two speaking, writing activities that your learners find most useful.
So as far as speaking goes, one thing that I like to do, and this is especially helpful for more advanced learners, is we have conversations about things that are, if I ask questions that are difficult to explain in your native language, then it's even more difficult to try to translate it into another language. So we talk about things where you have to kind of make an opinion, have an opinion on something, and I'll challenge the opinion and make you defend your thoughts. So whether that could be about politics, it could be about legal discussions. I like to introduce conversations that are going to be dynamic and force my learners to think on their feet, which doesn't really give them time to prepare. They have to kind of come up with their ideas and speak them into English in that moment. And I think that's great practice.
It's great practice, and it seems to me, I mean, we didn't specify this, but you do one-on-one.
Yes, I do. I do groups as well, but my primary focus is one-on-one, just because that's where you're going to see the most effective results.
So you don't do much writing, online writing with them.
I do enough. It's not the largest focus. So I do, for example, focus on email communication, because again, the people that I work with are need to improve their business skills. So email communication is a big component of what I do, but it's not as big as the speaking component.
Okay. Do you have a favorite book or online resource that you'd like to use?
So there's a few things that I use. The standard text that I used is published by Oxford University Press. They have a text called Business Result, and I find that that's a really good all-purpose business English curriculum, because it covers all of the bases. It covers a variety of industries, a variety of business topics, and of course it covers all the English skills that you need. So I use that as kind of a backdrop, but I use lots of other things too, just kind of think lessons that I've created or resources that I find. For example, there's actually a website that's made in German. It's called englishhilfen.de, but it has an English translation. And actually, that's the best website that I have found to send people to get grammar explanations and grammar exercises. I know that
Should
Yeah,
share.
I know that there are so many resources, but I try to use a few simple ones that are easy to use, and that's a great example.
Oh yeah, you should send that, and I'll include it in the description in YouTube.
Yeah.
That sounds really very useful. I know you've done some recently in connection with Rob Howard and Nellie Deutsch. You've done some teacher training, uh,
Yes.
share,
Yeah, absolutely.
sharing stuff with teachers. So, what would be the number one tip you'd give teachers of business English who want to start teaching online?
Okay, so this is it's really interesting, because I think the most important thing is that I would communicate to people who want to start teaching online is that marketing yourself as an online business requires a totally different body of knowledge than the one that's required for teaching, and they're not related. So you have these two totally unrelated things. So in the beginning, there's a really strong learning curve and a lot of information that you have to learn. So I would say the most important thing to do for someone who wants to start teaching online is to get a very basic internet presence. And so that would mean something even as simple as a free WordPress.com blog, and start publishing answers to questions that students have. You've got the faster that you can establish some sort of presence online, the better.
Sounds great. Sounds great. That's always a challenge for any online professional, is
Yeah.
to get the word out there. So tell me, Chris, what tip would you give your learners or share with your learners about improving their business speaking skills?
The most important thing that I tell learners is, and this is going to sound, I think this is something that people have heard before, but it is not implemented, is not enough as much as it should be. It's just so important to practice every single day. 5 minutes a day is better than 45 minutes one day a week. It's just so important to just get some very small habits of exposing yourself to English on a daily basis. And I think that's the smallest thing that will give the biggest result.
Do you actually give students things to do outside of your lessons?
Yes, we make a plan for how they will encounter English. So some of my students are lucky because a lot of their working day is in English. And so for them, it's much easier because that exposure to English is sort of guaranteed by their jobs. But I do have a lot of students where they don't interact in English at their jobs. And so in that situation, we have to sort of come up with this plan to say, let's find a way that's going to make English interesting. It's not going to get old. It's going to be about topics that you enjoy, so that you'll have it be not like you're doing homework, but that it's going to be something that's enjoyable, getting this exposure to daily English.
Some of them jokes, maybe.
Yeah, whatever it takes, whatever the person is interested in, because things like blogs and podcasts are in every topic in the world.
How about a tip for me? I'm in the process of creating an online business writing series geared to upper and intermediate and upper speaking individuals around the world. And one or two points I should keep in mind in creating materials.
Well, I would say the thing that's most important when you're creating materials is to have a very solid idea of who you're creating the materials for. So that means knowing the people that you want to sell it to, because I think it's easy to go the other way around, to create first and then wonder if what you've created is going to be successful. But in a situation like you, where you have an audience, you have people who are visiting your website, it's going to be very important to know that audience really well, to see exactly what it is that they want, because sometimes there can be a difference between what we think will help people and what people really want.
That's great advice. Okay, let's give me the links to your websites and how can people contact you.
Sure. So I'm really easy to find. My website is betterbusinessenglish.co, and so yeah, we'll put that down in the description. My email address is chris@betterbusinessenglish.co, and as far as social media goes, I'm very active on LinkedIn, so it'll be easy to search for me and find me for Chris Rush of Better Business English on LinkedIn.
Yeah, perfect. I'll put those in the description in the YouTube clip. This will be published on YouTube, and I will share it with you and others and make it public. So let's. I always tell my students, summarize the highlights of whatever you're doing. Give me the 3 main points you'd like people to take away.
Sure. Well, if we're talking about English learners, I would say 1, get really specific about your goals. Don't just say, I want to get better at English, because I have a lot of things that I want to get better at, and that's not a good enough reason. I've got to have a good reason why I want to do something that's going to get me out of bed in the morning and make me practice when I don't want to practice. So get really specific. And then the second thing is every day. So make sure, even when it's difficult, even if it's 5 minutes, make sure that you're getting some kind of exposure to English on a daily basis. So those are the 2 most important pieces of advice I would have to give to English learners.
Fantastic. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Chris. I know you're a busy guy. You want to get back to your online teaching. And
okay.
Hopefully we'll touch base in the future.
Okay. Thanks very much for having me, Frank.
You're welcome. Bye now.
Bye-bye.